everybody. Welcome back to Gardens, the Untold Story. I'm your host, Ken Somerville. My co-host, the Invisible Gardener, Andy Lopez, in the house. And how to control sooty mold. Oh, Andy, that scares me. Mold generally, scares me, especially if it's in my house, but for plants, sooty mold. So tell me about this sooty mold stuff. I know we got an image, so let me know when you want the image up, Andy.
Yeah, you can put it up. Go ahead. Put it up
Okay.
while talking. Yeah, put it up while talking. So I first heard about sooty mold, of course, when I was young on my neighbor's plants. She would say,
Okay.
"What is this black stuff on the plant?" It's called sooty mold because it looks like soot, SOOT, which is basically like in your fireplace. You have this black soot, right?
Yeah.
So you can see. I know what it is, silly. Thank you. You don't need to. And it's not exactly. So what happens is that okay, all right. I can't. I thank you, silly, but I want to explain it in my own fashion. So what it is that it's not just there are many different. See, ants are. It comes down to the way Mother Nature works and the way Mother Nature has trained everybody who are in the recycling business. So whenever a plant is dying or unhealthy, it'll have a disease or a pest. And this is one of them, an indicator that whenever it's food for the bug, right? When the bug can eat it. In this case, so what happens is that the ants do not attack the plants directly. The ants are very smart. They herd not just aphids, but there are a wide variety of creatures that produce a nectar when they attack a plant. It's called nectar. He calls it honeydew, but it's basically a nectar. And so the ants want that nectar because that's perfect food for them. I remember I had talked to you about they have two stomachs, one for them and one for take the food back. So the ants do not attack directly. Instead they herd animals. I call them animals, but basically you look at the aphids, they have a little udder, look like a miniature cow. The aphids attack, they suck the sap from the tree, which is suitable for them to eat, because if they ate it and died, they're not stupid. They can tell when the plant produces food that they can eat. Remember I talked about they have a built-in refractometer. They look at a plant and they go, "Oh, that's a certain color or a certain energy. That's what we want." Or if it's got the wrong color on it, we're not going to touch it. So, and most people don't understand that. See, like what the silly has showed up there. They didn't mention the ants at all. It's as if these guys were doing it by themselves. But the ants are the number one herder of all these creatures, whether it be whiteflies, all kinds of aphids, any kind of sucking insects that go after plants that they have in their little farm. They have all these farm underground. A section would have the whiteflies, or a section would have different types of aphids, and they herd them around on the surface according to what it's time to go over here to this plant or to this tree. Every plant, every tree has a different reaction to when they're having a nutritional deficiency, right? A trace mineral deficiency, slightly different reaction. So the insects and a bunch of other creatures have evolved to know when that plant is setting off a signal. I'm in trouble. I'm sick. I don't feel well. I'm dying.
Yeah.
They know exactly what it is. It is by a fungi, right? Or thrive on honeydew, right? I instead of honeydew, I call it nectar because that's what it is.
Yeah.
I like nectar better than honeydew, even though it's the same thing. But it is a fungus. And you see, the Mother Nature said, "I want to develop this fungus. And this fungus will only grow in a certain environment. It will not grow in any other environment." And that environment happens to be when the plant, whether it be a tree, a vegetable, fruit, whatever, is dying. It's sending out. It's going to die, and we want to speed up. We want to tell my gardeners that plant's for recycling.
Yeah. They want to speed up the death of the plant so they can decompose it. And
Right.
and like sooty mold, one of the things that it does is it blocks the photons
Yeah.
synthesis,
Yeah.
so that is going to kill the plant that much faster.
Exactly right. Exactly right. That's so. I'm going to develop this mold that's going to cover the leaf of the plant, block them from getting their food, the photosynthesis that they need, even more than they're so that they can speed up. And then when the plants come and take the nectar, which is the sap out of it, it's going to speed it up even more, and they're going to die more efficiently because then they're also feeding a wide variety of other creatures that I have here set up to recycle.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, we're going to take it and throw it away, we're going to eat it. We're going to decompose it. We're going to take the sap. We're going to take every part of that plant and convert it. And so that's what Sooty mold basically is. When you see Sooty mold on a plant, usually it tells me, I already know, like we talked about everything we talk about when we do a show always goes back to the biology. So it's kind of like, oh, here he goes again. He's talking about the biology. Oh my God, I heard that a billion times. So, but I don't automatically think biology when I think of a disease or a pest. I think of the what nature has gone through to create this disease or pest specifically for that plant. Or there's so many different variations, but the ants will go from one tree to another one, and they can deal with a wide variety of plants rather than stuck with one particular one. See what I mean? So the ants are like a major gardeners, and they can deal with such a many different. They can handle citrus, they can handle apples, they can handle fruit trees, they can handle pot, they can handle anything. But they're slightly different, and the ants seem to they know when to hurt them. The ants, that's what they do. They basically go up and down. When you see ants climbing up a tree, for example, it tells me that tree has a problem because the ants know it. They found out first. And if we want to save the tree, we have to figure out the cost. The real cost is what? The soil. And what's really happening to the soil? It's the water. It's the toxic water that they're getting, or all other kinds of toxins that they're getting, whether it be chemical pesticides, chemical fertilizers. You name the chemical that we like to put on give it to the soil. So the real cost is humans, right? Humans have cost all these things, whether it be the water, whether it be the fertilizer, pesticides. But in nature, it also happens naturally. When a plant gets old, or a tree gets old, or something happens, it gets shocked, and it can't recover. The whole forest knows that. And trees usually try to help other trees, but if the tree's going, sorry, you're going. There's nothing we can do about it, But all we can do is, be there for you when you die, and then we're going to convert you into nutrients for us and for everybody else.
Yeah, that's for the next generation.
That's what happens. The forest helps in the recycling of that tree right back into the trees and the insects and all the other bugs. That happens naturally. So we have kind of taken it and bastardized it, converted into, and so something that happens naturally now happens because we have speeded up the toxic process. We have speeded up the process of destroying that plant. It's a very efficient system. It really is. And so it doesn't waste energy. It just knows when it's time to recycle. And the best ways, so they're not just ants, but there's around the world, there's like thousands of varieties of ants who are specializing in a variety of different ways for that forest. Some ants are leaf cutters. They'll cut the leaf up and take it back. Other ants are branch cutters. They cut a whole branch to take it back. Or they get at the roots. Or they continue to feed off that tree because that tree can last for years that way until it decays and goes back. But they don't want to kill it right away because it's a good source of food. So they literally control the amount that they're taking out, which is a really cool thing.
Well, you think when we go out into the forest and we're doing wild harvesting, one of the main things we're taught is, only take a small amount so that there's enough left there for the energy for the plant to keep growing and for wildlife. And that's what the ants and that are doing. They're not going and stripping it all bare.
Even though we are to a certain extent now. But the other thing,
that's humans doing that. That's not the animal world doing that.
No. And also, too, it's interesting what we're taught genetically. If it's sweet, take it. If it's sour, don't eat it.
Yeah.
So that's the whole sugar thing. It's true for ants, for all types of insects. The human beings, animals, all kinds of creatures are all key into sugar, but it's different types of sugars that the creatures key into. And as we talked about before, when you do a refractometer reading, it's a measurement of sugar. So that's why the refractometer is such a good tool to tell you not just the sugar level, because people, who cares about sugar? Yeah, but what you care about, how well that plant is producing sugar, what kind of sugar is it producing, and it tells you the minerals that the plant is dealing with. So when the plant has a very low Brix level, you know it's going to be low in minerals. That's a good indicator of what's going on, because this scientist developed a refractometer specifically to measure sugar, and he never thought about measuring minerals. That's something I came up with down the road, but I'm sure other people feel it's the same. Yeah, they're carbohydrates, exactly right. And the carbohydrate, basically two types: banana pharma. Oh yeah, you're a farmer. Hey, he's a farmer.
Well,
So
and we talked actually last week, Andy, on the difference between the complex molecule of sugar and the non-complex molecule, and the bugs can't eat the complex molecule.
No, they can't.
You know,
it has to be simple. It has to be simple. If you think about it, complex is too complex for bugs to eat. The bugs they're not higher up high up in the scale of evolution to handle complex. We handle complex. The same thing with our bodies. When we have complex carbohydrates, we're healthy. When we have simple carbohydrates, we're not. And you would think that there would be some creature out there, oh, he's simple carbohydrates, let's eat that guy, right? But it has to be, and in a way, it's true. If you lived in nature, the animals would go, you're ready to eat. Hey, yeah, lion, tiger, whatever it is. Hey, that's what I want. But for the bugs need simple carbohydrates for energy. That's what they use to produce this energy for them, right? You know what I mean? Honey is not a simple carbohydrate. It's a complex carbohydrate. And that's why we love honey, because honey is the source of energy for us, but the complex version. And I came up with that. I wrote that in my book, Don't Panic, It's Organic, that is the key right there to whether it's complex or simple carbohydrates, as simple as that. Get it? It's as simple or as complex as that. And how you can manipulate that, that's really an amazing way that we as humans can do that. We can actually take a tree that has simple carbohydrates and turn it into a complex carbohydrate simply by what?
By the biology and adding the right life and the right food for the tree or organic material.
Right, exactly right. So we can easily do that. That's what I do in my business. I've learned to have, Dr. Green Thumb. Cool. Hi, Dr. Green Thumb. I used to have a green thumb, but the teacher says you have a purple thumb. I spit, things grow, and I look at stuff and things grow. Green thumb is just for the average person who grows, right? But a purple thumb is like, woo, 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 woo.
I thought it was the teacher was swatting you with a hammer on your thumb, and it was, making it purple.
Turn purple, turn purple. So in my business, I've learned very fast, what can I do to help this tree or plant? Vegetables are like that. Vegetables are even more amazing how fast they recover because they're very short-lived, 30 to 60, 90 days, and they're done, right? Whether it be lettuce, tomatoes, or whatever, they're okay, right? So you can, using a refractometer on a lettuce, for example, you can start a little baby lettuce, grow it in there. You go, look at the refractometer level, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's a baby lettuce or a full-grown lettuce. It still should show you the same level. As it gets bigger, you maybe be able to get more sample from it. But basically, for example, a lettuce is like in the high 20s when it's happy. So if you take a lettuce, you run it through your little system where you can make a liquid out of it, you poultice and look through it. So you'll see this. Anything higher than 20, you go right on because it's complex. That's what we want to eat, complex. If we ate simple.
Andy, is that the breaking point at 20 on your Brix meter between the complex carbo? Okay, well, where's the breaking point for?
It depends on the refractometer that you use. Remember, there are different types of refractometers for different things, for wine and stuff like that. So we're talking about using a refractometer that that's compatible for us for vegetables and fruit and stuff like that. They tend to go up to 32.
Okay, but where what I'm asking is, the difference between a complex carbohydrate and a non-complex.
No,
Is there a level on the
no,
bricks meter that we need to
no,
make?
no. So if you have a brick of 4, it doesn't really turn out that way. So a bricks level is telling you how much trace minerals, but not how many. Remember, we have 96 trace minerals. It doesn't tell you, if you have a low bricks level, say a 2 or 3 or 4, it tells me you have some of the trace minerals, but you're missing a lot of the trace minerals. If you have 20 or higher, or 32, you have 90 or so trace minerals. You have more trace minerals, and it doesn't really tell you. Doesn't break it up like a real refractometer will break it up into different light rays, right? Each frequency has a different minerals. That's one, the more expensive one. That's how scientists can look at a plant and go, that has iron, magnesium, all this stuff. They can see how the refractometer breaks it up in like a rainbow, all the different colors. Whereas this refractometer basically just gives you a general idea of the amount of minerals. And it's called a fuzzy rule level. So one of the things is when you look at a refractometer, you have the top is white and the bottom is black. That little line there, if it's a straight, sharp line, no matter how high it is, that means you're very low in the number of minerals. It may be at 32, but a very sharp line. That means, well, it's still not getting all. You want a fuzzy line because you want as many different types. Right? You want at least 96 trace minerals. So it doesn't really tell you exactly how many trace minerals you have. So you can have a refractometer reading a 2. Well, what that tells you, first of all, that it doesn't necessarily producing simple carbohydrates, but because it's missing a bunch of trace minerals, recover insect food. I said, but fine, it's not getting pests. I'm sorry, I didn't get that part.
Well, basically what he's saying, he planted lettuce. His neighbor came over and says, well, you have to use, pesticides to keep the bugs off. And he's not using anything because he's using soil biology. His plants are so healthy, and that's the thing. There's dealing with the sooty mold, on one level, and there's dealing doing foliars, doing soil applications. But once your plant is healthy enough that say the spider mite, it isn't able to penetrate into the phloem to get and make that
in the first place,
drop, right? Then it doesn't matter. Your plant's not going to get attacked. You're never going to get the sooty mold. But we'll get back to the refractometer. So basically, what you're saying is you can judge how much minerals are in your soil using the refractometer. But are we judging how much minerals are in the soil, or should we be relating those numbers to how much biological activity is actually in your soil and in your plant? Because it's that biology that's breaking down those minerals and putting it in the plant. So
I like you because you have a good brain on you so far. How many fingers do I have? No.
So far, yeah. Thanks, Andy.
But see, you can take it. You can say, okay, normally in nature, everything's there. Normally, when Mother Nature is doing a thing without humans involved, the soil has all the trace minerals it needs. And if you have a refractometer, you will get high readings on everything other than if it was naturally weak. So it really has to do with the activity. It's what's going on in the soil. Like you said, the activity of how the soil is basically functioning, how the soil is providing for the plants what it needs. If the soil is not doing that, it's going to be missing the trace minerals that the plants need. And I feel that normally if everything's alive and happy, you don't have to even feed it because it normally will feed itself. That's the way it works. Look at nature. You got things in the middle of nowhere and they're growing just fine. Well, they were getting fed. So it's just how we have interfered with that process of how the soil works. We interfered by killing, basically, we kill it.
Oh, we killed the biology that's mining those nutrients out of the sand, silt, clay, and organic material. And it's no wonder our plants aren't healthy, because they're not getting those basics. And that's where, you're adding the rock dusts, etc. And we've talked about this on many shows, adding those minerals back into the soil. But without the biology, I can put a ton of minerals on a soil, but if I don't have the biology to break that down, to give it into the cells of the plant, it's not going to matter. I can have a ton of it.
So
And it's
I
not
love
gonna
this.
matter.
I saw this guy on YouTube not too long ago. He says rock dust doesn't work. I put, half a pound of rock dust on my raised bed, and
Yep.
actually the plants didn't do very well, and nothing happened. So rock dust doesn't work. I didn't have the heart to tell him, well, maybe you should have, concentrated on the biology in that soil, because there's probably not a single worm in there. You're probably using chemical fertilizers. Water goes through the water's got toxic too. So yeah, you could have given it the best compost. Well, that's one thing. If you gave it the best compost, you're actually increasing the biology. That's a different thing. But if you give me like I have these. Part of my problem that I've always had all my life, except for when I was young and making compost, was that customers like to go to the store and they buy junk, whether it be junk food or junk food for plants, right? They junk food for them, junk food for plants, right? They buy all this, and this is compost. I love it when they say compost, no animal manure allowed, right? That we do not use any animal manure. Like, oh, great, it's perfect compost. I don't want to have any manure in my compost, right? I always thought that was a little weird, because how can you make compost increase the biology without the animal manure? Because the animal manure is the key to the whole biology thing. Mother Nature says you're going to die, you're going to poop, you're going to do. Let's put that into the mix. Let's make that part of the essential thing. Birds poop. I mean, I tell people, when was the last time an animal came and died on your property and decomposed on your property? So came back to the earth. Doesn't happen anymore. So it's the process of. So anytime I talk about any disease, whether we talk about the white flies, or we talk about sooty mold or whatever, we basically have two things we have to keep in mind: long-term solutions and short-term solutions. A long-term solution is bringing the soil back to life. It's not going to happen overnight. Not going to happen in a month. Maybe you're lucky. You get in a year you start to notice something, but it takes years. That's the way Mother Nature works. It's constantly years. Things have to have time to break down. The biology then works, but the biology doesn't have a pass button. You don't have a way to go faster, make things happen faster. And that part of the reason is because it takes time for the plant to heal. If the plant itself is damaged, where the root systems are damaged, the root systems are normally supposed to have this whole manufacturing plant right on the root hairs. You get that's going, it doesn't get rebuilt overnight. It's a matter of fact that the environment is so toxic that the roots are dying before they even get any further into the ground. That's what's going on here. The roots are not going very far at all. A root of the lettuce goes down 10 feet. 10 feet. A root of lettuce will go down 10 feet. And
cool. I didn't realize it went down that deep.
Yeah. And that's something else. And that's just lettuce. All the other vegetables.
Days.
What?
That's all. Lettuce is only like a 30-day plant, and it goes 10 feet deep in 30 days.
Especially in 10 feet. 10 feet if it's a decent, recent live soil. If it's in stuff like where I live in over here, lucky if it goes down a foot or 2 feet into this heavy clay environment, and then it's just stuck there, right? And so the more roots, we'll talk about the more roots in the ground, was the same thing with any plant. The more roots it has in the ground, the more it's exposed to the biology, the more biology can help it.
Yeah.
Right?
More roots in the soil is a key to overall soil health and the health of the soil biology. You got the photons coming in, feeding the energy into those leaves that's going down into the soil structure. It's feeding the biology, it's giving them the energy they need to mine the rock dust, the all those minerals needed for the healthy plant. So it's that synergistic relationship between everything, and it all starts with the foundation of how does a cell divide? Well, you have to have the biology for cell division. You don't have the biology, you have no cell division, you got no plant. Well, you got no us.
Unfortunately, we're not taught that. Unfortunately,
No.
we watch TV and we're told eat this, eat anything you want to, but take this pill. And when you have a plant disease or something, spray this on it. It doesn't even tell you the reason, because if you knew the law of cause and effect, you wouldn't be having these problems at all, and you wouldn't be having. Same to your body. If you eat something and you get sick, maybe you shouldn't eat that. Maybe you should be more careful what you eat. I just found out like Amazon was selling all kinds of rice with heavy metals 100 times more than you're allowed. So it's like, because rice, the way they grow rice, it's in water. Any chemicals gets dissolved into that water, and the rice absorbs even more, especially if it's chemically grown. That means that there's no biology there. It's just, I mean, there is biology, but not the right kind. Okay.
Have you heard of plastic rice?
Don't tell me they have plastic rice now.
I don't know if it's true or not, but supposedly people have found little plastic rice grains mixed in with the rice that they're buying, like just to make up the volume, I guess, and the weight.
Yeah. I read about that.
Crazy.
Right? I read about that. And there's more and more plastic in everything that we eat now. More and more. These plastics are not going to go away. As a matter of fact, the age of man, we have different ages. The term for the age of man, Untold, Silly could look it up. It means plastic. Silly, look up what the terminology for the age of mankind. Because they have different ages, they have different names. It's a weird name, and basically, you look it up in the dictionary. It means plastic. That means because it's plastic. They're saying that plastic is all over the world. There's no place on the planet you can't go to, but you can't go to that doesn't have plastic. And they can actually cut it with plastic, and they can do so many different things with plastic nowadays that you don't even know. Baby food, dog food, you name it. And it's like it's bad enough that we're getting the plastic already, but it's worse that they're actually putting it in. And the soil biology can handle plastic.
Yep, it can break down those complex molecules back in the component parts and be reused as the component parts instead of as plastic.
Same thing with radiation, radioactive materials, all these things. The biology has been able to adapt throughout the years to do that, but what happens is it takes time. It seriously takes time, and we are one of those creatures always in a hurry. It must happen now, and it's the same thing with plants. That's why they develop high nitrogen fertilizer. Whoosh.
Yeah.
Oh, look how beautiful it looks, right? Immediately, wow. Right. So,
no health, no vitality, nothing in it that's alive and good for us. But hey, it looks good.
One of the things I learned is junk in, junk out.
Yeah.
Right. You are what you eat.
My brain, Andy. That's my brain. Junk in, junk out. Yeah.
So, and it's a tough scenario because we were taught that as kids, and we're not even taught you shouldn't eat that because that's no food. It's a non-food product that you're eating. And your body's going, oh, it must be a drug. Give me more. See, and it goes to your brain. It goes to your organs, and they go, what the heck is it? Okay, put it over there. Over there, we can't poop it out, but we can just store it over here. Store it, and what is it stored in fat, in your fat tissue, and your brain tissue.
My belly.
Your belly. Right. So what we have to do is understand the law of cause and effect. So whenever you see a bug or a disease on a plant, you need to step back and you go, okay, take a look at the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
You see, because the trees are like the disease, the bug, but you step back, you look at the whole forest, you go, well, what have we here? Because that's the problem. See, that's if you can say, okay, my whole back property is toxic. There's not a single earthworm on this place. No wonder this is happening. No wonder that's happening. Rather than saying, okay, what can I buy to spray on this plant? You see, right? Because the spray will work. It will destroy the mold because it kills the aphids, it kills the ants, but it doesn't solve the problem. Plastic age is trying to try the. So there you go, Anthropocene. No wonder Anthropocene. No wonder I couldn't.
Remember that one?
Right. And that means the plastic age. And there's no place on the planet that you can go to that deep Indiana, that trench, miles down in the down there. Yeah, it's down there. It's up in the highest mountain. And volcanoes are is plastic. Just recently, they found a dead well, all plastic in its bladder. They cut it up. It's plastic. And animals are eating it because they think it's food. What happens? Algae grows on it. Not only algae, but every toxic is absorbed by it, whether it be radiation, toxic is absorbed, and then there's green animals eat it and they die. And humans are idiots if they continue to eat things from the ocean because you're getting into your system. We're at the top of the food chain. So everybody has gone through hundreds, if not thousands, of being eaten, and all of a sudden we're going to eat this concentrated product. They used to say you can have fish maybe once a week. Now they're saying, well, yeah, continue eating fish. There's no problem. There's no problem.
Well, it's gotten to the point, Andy, when they're finding plastic in Antarctica, top of Everest. You can't get away from it. All we can do is try to get our biology in our bodies so diverse that it's able to break that stuff down so it doesn't, do as much damage. And the human body's going to adjust to it. The planet's going to adjust to it. But are we going to survive that adjustment phase? That's a question we can't answer right now.
We're going through a variety of different human cost events. Mm-hmm. These are events that don't happen naturally in nature because these are humans. Humans should be a part of nature. You think, well, that's natural. It's not. We have an ability to create. Well, how many animals do you know can build nuclear power plants, right? Or birds or whatever, right? They don't do that. So we have an ability to do stuff that most animals and creatures don't because we have this super brain, right? But to say so we have gone so far from being natural that nothing we do really is natural anymore. Whether it be human health or whether it be soil health, we all tend to go with the unnatural solution rather than the natural solution.
Well, to me, the natural solution. It's supposed to be like going to the doctor and getting one pill to fix yourself. That's our whole mentality of society now is, oh, well, yeah, Joe, just go get some MG and throw it on the soil and you're going to have fantastic plants. You're going to kill all the biology. You're going to do all this. It's not going to have a healthy plant. But that's not our perspective. That's not what we've been taught now. And that's why, Andy, we're here teaching stuff. And we should probably get off plastic and get back to sidetrack.
So what I learned to do is to work with the biology. That's why in my business, when somebody calls me up, what can I spray on this? I said, well, first of all, you don't have a bug problem. You have a soil problem. And so if you don't deal with the soil, you're going to have the bug problem. So I can tell you lots of different things you can spray, which will make it look good, but you're going to still going to have the problem because you didn't fix the problem, right? So the problem is the soil takes a while. So you have to start this composting process. Now, I'm lucky here. I have the best composter in the world. The guy, Leighton, makes one. I used to make the best, but I stopped. Now Leighton makes the best. And I really like it because the plants, I did something. Basically, I'm working on one property. They had 900 trees. They lost 300. Now it's down to 600. So I'm replacing the soil with the biology and spraying. Come back in a month, poof. It's like an immediate reaction to the trace minerals. Immediately, even then, I still do the foliar because the trees are, if you was to take a sample of a root and look at the root system, you'll see nothing's still there. It doesn't have the root hairs. This is the roots are starting to heal up. And they may take a few years, but they can't really heal up if they're constantly. You can't heal your hand if it's in the fire all the time.
That's
right. You have to either take the hand out of the fire or change the fire, turn the fire off, or whatever you have to do, because it will. The fire to me is toxic. That's a simple way to look at it. It's toxins everywhere. So I have to try. I have to try to teach people. They say, why can't we just spray and we're done? Why do you have to keep coming back every month? I said, well, lady, I like to take your money every month. That's what I want to do. That's my business. Give me your money every month. But that's basically, That's true, because that's a business I like going to people's property on a regular basis. But I also want to tell them, you really want to stop this. You really want to be sustainable. You want to be put yourself in a position where the property will take care of itself. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen because it's being surrounded with humans who are constantly doing things to kill your environment. You can't have a healthy soil if your next door neighbor is using Roundup, if the guy across the street is using Roundup, your whole neighborhood is using Roundup. You expect your property to have a shield around it and stop it from migrating, because that's happened. Chemicals will migrate onto the property, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a very tough scenario. When I was young, I used to have the cul-de-sac. I started in one house, and then I got the next door neighbors, and slowly I had the whole little. And it's always good to have your next door neighbor on the same side of you in terms of doing healthy biology, because they're stronger when you have a group of people doing it, and then one guy doing it, and everybody's doing chemicals. But that's a slow process. So in the interim, you want to be able to do something to the tree or the plant, and that is spray the biology. Normally the biology is in the air. Normally biology is everywhere. So we want to. That's why I started making a liquid, which I found I still do, because I use Layton's compost to make compost tea, but I also added to I used to use Michael's compost as a compost tea, and now I have a wide variety of other things that I can add to my worm farm, because I use their compost, add it to my worm farm. I use a biochar. I use what's in shitate. It's a weird name, starts with a B.
Boron?
No, it's not boron. It's a Michael would know what it is, because it's basically it's an herb product that's a concentrated, and you to make a tea from that. So I add that to my worm farm. So I have a variety of things to the worm farm. So I have a very complex mixture of different types of biology in there, and I've learned that I can fuller spray it on the plants, spray it on the leaves. So the biology, I make the biology come in contact with the ants, come in contact with the aphids and the sooty mold. It will knock them out. The biology, somebody in there go, oh, I know what to do, right? And they attack that biology, or the ants can't. One of the ways that the soil biology controls the ants is that it produces this chemical that goes straight through the ants' protective system, right, that they have, and it destroys their biology. And if they don't have their biology working, the ants will die. Yeah. You have to have this system together to keep your biology. So I've learned that I can spray the biology. Foliar feeding is an amazing tool that you can spray on the leaves, you also spray on the trunk, because it gets absorbed right through the trunk, and you do deep root feeding. You want to get it into the soil. It works much better if you have actually something down there that the biology can say, all right, this is cool, we'll live here. Rather than where do we sleep at now? Where do we work? Where's our workshop? What are we going to do? They'll die. Right? Good day, all. Hey, Jeff. What is that? It looks like a nice bud. Let me see that again. Come on, let me see it. It is a little bud with a little resin on it. Send me that bud, will you, please?
So what are you spraying on the plant to get rid of the sooty mold for people? Because they're here to how to control sooty mold. We know that it starts with the biology, works its way up, but as a foliar feeding, what are you spraying on to knock it down from the top down end?
So remember, it's a trace mineral deficiency, so what you want to do, start spraying trace minerals, but you can't spray trace minerals by itself. It has to be processed by the biology. So what I do, so in my worm farm, I add rock dust to it. I add all the sources of biology, C90 to it, and let the worms break it down, that make the biology in this. And then when I add my distilled water, it cleans it, brings out all that liquid in a liquid form that's already been broken down. If you were to analyze it, you would see, well, sure, it's got billions and trillions of little creatures running around, and it's got all this rich trace minerals. I can find iron, magnesium, copper, lead, all the good stuff. See, right? And it's not in a form that they can't absorb. It's in a form because the biology have already converted it. You feed the biology trace minerals, and then you spray that liquid because it's already in a form that they immediately absorb. And then also too, because it has the biology, it becomes in contact with the disease or the pest, the pest and disease leave because it's not a good place for them to be. The biology will kill the disease because all the disease is a certain type of biology. So when you stick the good guys on against the bad guys, the good guys generally win, right? Unless you have a small amount of good guys and a lot of bad guys. So I can spray a giant place with a small amount, the biology dies. As a matter of fact, when you first go to a place and you're spraying, you're going to lose all the biology. 99% of them are going to die. They're not going to stick around because there's nothing for them to survive on. So that's why you have to constantly be spraying the biology on them. But ideally, you want to increase the biology in the soil. So you spray the soil biology. But to make it really work right, you bring in something like compost. That's why you want to make the best compost. You start turning that into the soil. So then when you spray, you also spray your compost. The biology goes, oh, good, I can stay here. This is a good place. This is a good place for me to work on. And you're going to find more of the biology living throughout into the next time you come around, because there are ways you can tell whether the biology is increasing or not. How do you do that? You do a Brix reading on your plant. You do a Brix reading before, and you do a Brix reading every time you go, and you're going to see the Brix level slowly start to rise. It doesn't mean it really means that the plant's starting to get to trace minerals, but it also means that it's getting healthier, that the soil biology is working, because you can send the soil. There are different companies now. I'm sure Layden will explain to you one. He deals with a very good one. And the one we had here not too long ago, it's called Alluvium, I think it's called.
Alluvial Soil Labs, yeah.
Right. And they're very good at doing a soil test and showing you the biology that's there. Oh, look at these guys. But most lab companies don't look at biology. They just say you're deficient in this, you're deficient in that. This is toxic. Your salt levels are too high, right? Because the issue, what happens? Fertilizers, chemical are salts. So when you salt, the Romans, the way they would conquer countries, they would salt the earth, not allow them to grow. They would literally salt the earth. And that's what we're doing, but not straight away. If you knew that the chemicals are salt and destroying, we wouldn't do that. But we think it's a fertilizer, right? We think it's actually good. Yeah, oddly enough, we're salting ourselves. One of the problems when we eat, we buy stuff with salt in it and sugar. The salt is not real salt, it's man-made. And the sugar is not real sugar, it's man-made. So so we're salting our bodies also when we're eating. That causes a problem. So you want to, so the key is the liquid. And if you don't want to do a worm farm, Andy, why would ants be taking biochar to their colonies? Okay, so ants don't take biochar to colonies.
Actually,
biochar,
Andy,
no way.
that's where this comment.
They do. They do. I'm talking about when I put it in my worm farm.
Okay, yeah, because he's saying that mix biochar into my garden this spring. Ants every day are hauling it away.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. So I use the biochar in my worm farm. I also put biochar on the soil. I mix it in with what's there. So because the biochar is basically a condo, it's like an office or a warehouse where they work at. It's a structure that they live in, and they use that as a basis to work from. Whereas, because in nature, carbon is a very effective way. Mother Nature, when things burn, that's one reason why it works so well. When things burn afterwards, they come back because of the carbon. That's Mother Nature's way of putting carbon back in. We're carbon-based beings, see, right? The whole thing is
plants and animals are, yeah.
The whole thing is carbon-based. You take away the carbon, we're in deep trouble. So that's why it's important to understand the different cycles that we go through, because we talked about it once, all the different cycles in nature, whether it be the nitrogen cycle, the oxygen cycle. Carbon cycle is a big thing for us because we're carbon-based, and we need to have a constant source of carbon in our bodies and in the soil. And so we become very deficient at that because we clean it up. We don't let anything burn. If it does burn, it's probably a city that burns down. You don't normally have in the backyard a fire comes through and burn it and returns the carbon. See, because that's what the way Mother Nature does it. It burns, returns. When I first started using bamboo vinegar, I'm into the Chinese a lot because they go back for centuries and they're really cool how they do deal with Mother Nature. And bamboo is one of the most amazing plant on the planet because it's really super energy. It will grow like crazy. And when they realized when they had a fire and the bamboo forest burned down, and that everything came back amazingly, even better than before. And they realized that this liquid, which when they would put it out with water, it would sort of seep in there, and you end up with this vinegar. So they started using the bamboo vinegar. That's why I like bamboo over burning just normal wood, because bamboo has a different energy. I would buy bamboo vinegar. I was buying it because it was illegal, and then Michael was selling it, and he stopped selling it, but he's making it now. But that's why I like the bamboo, because. But anyway, we're carbon-based beings, and we need the carbon. And so we want to put the carbon back into the soil, and that's why the biochar is very important, because normally, right now, we're not doing that. We're taking away plants' life, everything that dies, and we pick it up and throw it away. That would normally turn into carbon to provide carbon as well.
And one thing I really want to point out to everybody is understand this one point. All the biology is carbon-based. You can put and capture more carbon in your soil by growing out the biology than all the carbon capture devices that are marketed out there. The biology that we've killed has released all that carbon. If we put more biology back into our soil structure, guess what? We capture all that carbon back into our soils, which goes into our plants, which goes into us and makes us healthy.
It's called carbon sequestration. Carbon
sequester. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So in the soil, one of the problems that I was explaining to people a long time ago, they were saying, "Oh, planes are producing and cars are producing all this carbon." You know? I said, "Well, on one level, it's good because trees need carbon to convert into oxygen, right? But on another level, Mother Nature has been taking into the ocean. It takes carbon from the air, and the soil takes carbon from the air. And the real problem has been the farmers who have been turning over the soil and releasing the carbon that it's been holding in there.
Yeah, they're killing the biology, which is releasing all that carbon.
Exactly. When we first started plowing the land, we saw this is a good idea, let's plow it. But they're destroying the structure that Mother Nature took a long time to build, and they're releasing the carbon right back into the air again. And they're doing the exact thing they're not supposed to. Let's cut down the trees, which absorb carbon and give off oxygen, because we also are oxygen based too as well. And the carbon cycle and the oxygen cycle are very well linked, but all the cycles are linked together. There's like a big wheel of gears, all linked together. You take away one cycle, the rest of the cycles are not going to be functioning as well. So that's so in terms of understanding Sooty mode, first of all, you have to understand it's not a disease that comes about by itself. It doesn't happen all by itself. There are other creatures, there are other factors that go into play, and those are the things you want to understand, right? If you'll see the white flies there, the white flies, if you look at it on a telescope, microscope,
yeah, okay,
yeah, but because they're like little cows, and they will attack the plant, suck up the nectar, the blood. I call it the blood of the plant, convert it into this nectar, or you can call it honeydew. And normally, when I started, see, ants are a female-run organization, so I always had this problem with ants. I said, wait a minute, if you're a female, you're supposed to be clean. How come you do all this farming and you leave all this nectar all over the place? And that's where the Sooty mode grows, because it's a fungi that grows off the nectar.
Yeah. See,
so there's a big chain reaction. So what we want to do is, okay, so we have an ant problem. No, you don't. You have a soil problem. It goes back to everything goes back to the soil. In the human body, everything goes back to your stomach. Everything goes back to your stomach. If it doesn't come to your stomach, you're in trouble. So that you can't intravenously feed yourself for too long. Your brain's going to go, what the heck?
Biology in your stomach, that's the biology in the soil. That it all comes back to, it's all about the biology.
Exactly right. So we have been trained to think that we're separate. We were put here on earth to control, to live, to be the kings and queens and do all this stuff. It's all for us. when in reality we're only part of the wheel. We're only a small part of the whole thing. Unfortunately, we can clog up the works. We have an ability to really do a bad job on a bad job of gardening, right? Because we're supposed to be part of the gardeners of the world, right? We're supposed to be taking care of this paradise, but we're really turning it into something very different. So I'm hoping that you understand that whenever you see a disease like Sooty mold, so you don't want to say, okay, what can I spray on that? So if you think about what can I spray on that, well, yeah, I want to spray biology on it. I want to spray minerally rich biology. That's what I want to do. I know it's a transfer deficiency, right? And that will immediately get a response from the plant. The plant will start absorbing the nutrients, start absorbing the minerals, and then if you also in conjunction working with the soil, realizing that the soil it's going to take a while for it to start functioning again. And as soon as it starts functioning, you can literally step back and go, wow. But even then, you don't leave it unless you do like I was talking about the other day too, about this biodome. People that they experiment, they build a giant biodome, they want to live inside, right? And they forgot a few minor details on how to really be sustainable without having to come out. But we can't do that because you're surrounded by other human beings and other things. Basically, we're swimming in a world of toxins. And it's hard to have biology alive and healthy in a toxic environment. So again, we have a cost. The cost of human cost. We need to wake up and smell the coffee or whatever. Coffee, by the way, will do the same thing in terms of you can spray the biology in the coffee because there are different types of biology you can make, whether you make it from rice, whether you make it from milk, or whether you make it from your vegetable plants. And lots of minerals. You remember we talk about weeds are Mother Nature's medicine, and so we want that medicine is also very good. Is worm juice okay for that? Yes, of course. Well, worm juice, but it depends. You need to make the most amazing worm juice. You just don't get worm juice and say this is all. Because you want to add to the worm juice. You want to add the biochar. You want to get the best compost you can get. You want to add, a bunch of other different things to that worm juice to make the worm juice really a super incredible elixir. The more that's why I add the C90 or the rock dust. You do a very small amount. Remember, too much rock dust will kill the worms, but you do just the right amount, small amount of anything. A little bit, it's a lot better than a lot. Don't be a moron, right? Like Leighton would say, right?
Says, don't be a moron. It's all about balance, Andy, and that's where if you're using your compost as your worm bedding instead of just like paper or newspaper, etc. You actually can add all the rock dust and everything into your compost, have the biology break it down first, feed that to your worm bin, and then you don't have to worry about putting things out of balance because biology already has it in balance.
So when I lived in Florida, that's exactly what I did. I started going out because I was really into Rudolf Steiner. I was really into permaculture. Even though I didn't know, I was starting to read a little bit more about Paul. I think it was the person that started permaculture. I forget his name now, but I was reading about him a little bit, and the Organic Gardening magazine was reading about them. A really good thing you guys should read is called Acres USA. It's about organic farming, and these good old farmers are really very good at making compost. So I started making compost the way Mother Nature intended. That would be a blend. Mother Nature does not make compost out of one thing; it makes another compost out of a blend of different creatures. So I would go and look for rabbit manure, chicken manure, cow. I even located elephant manure. I even got deer manure, llama manure. You name all the different kinds because they all have different. I don't think it's him. No.
You think it's Steinberg?
No, but he started. Just look up look up who invented permaculture. He has a big giant book on permaculture. It's really cool. It's permanent culture, and I can talk a lot about that. Because it's really a very simple way of understanding how energy flows through the property, how things work, how the air flows through, how the water flows through, how to set up how the biology works. And all this stuff is very, very important to understand. So you want to be a really good earth cook. You want to really learn how to do a blend. When you eat, you don't eat just lettuce. You eat a wide range of food. That's what you should do. Eat a wide. So that's what plants need. The soil, and you have to give it the wide range of food to the soil. Yeah, Bill Morrison. There you go. Yeah, I met him. Right. I didn't meet Dave, but I met Bill because I was
Well,
very.
and it's an understanding that it's all together. You know, it starts in our soils, but all that biology is through all the plants, all the animals, through us, in the air, in the water. It doesn't matter the environment. There's biology there. Like we talked about the Marianas Trench, they found in the volcanic vents animals there living there and biology living there that doesn't exist anywhere else on our planet, but it can live in that environment. You know, thousands of tons of pressure, temperatures like that would cook us in an instant. Yet there's biology there living, breathing, multiplying, growing, creating different fish, etc. You know, it's Mother Nature has it figured out. If we get our asses out of the road and help Mother Nature, like what you're doing, Andy, with adding things back into the environment with the compost, with your teas and your sprays, that's where we need to focus on. We don't need to grow plants. Don't need to be gardeners. We need to be growing biology, and then let the biology do the work they're designed to do, which is grow the plant.
What's really interesting with that particular bacteria to talk about is one of the main reasons we have oxygen on Earth. There are two different sources of oxygen, one from meteorites falling to Earth, but the other one was this bacteria actually grew all over the Earth, and it produces oxygen. It's only found in one place on the planet, right down there where the volcano is pretty super hot. And it seems to like that because I think the volcano kind of destroys plastic, it destroys toxic. It's one of the cleanest places on the planet, but they're thinking of growing that and helping it to establish on the planet because we do need more oxygen, clean air, and so that's very, very important, you know. But the other thing that's interesting too is that, and I do it to the degree that I'm allowed to, and that's music. Is that frequency energy? Frequency it's a key to harmonizing not only your body but the tree's body or the insects. If they're stress, the less the stress, the less the pest. The greater the stress, the greater the pest. So one of the things that we're doing is we're blocking out the Mother Nature's song that she normally sings. Whether it be insects, birds, whatever, they all have this music. That the music is part of the healing process. You take away that, and you're no longer being of energy. So your energy drops, and as your energy drops, your food level drops, everything drops. So it has to do with combining all those things together that makes it. So as human beings, we learn to meditate, we learn to listen to music, we learn that the sound that Mother Nature makes when it rains is a very interesting process that our body takes and allows us to absorb these minerals. So a lot of times you can even here's something that's interesting. So if I have this book that shows you all the minerals of the world, right? You can open a page to certain minerals. You can look at that mineral and think about the mineral. Your body's going to start absorbing, creating that mineral. That mineral will appear in your body if you know how to concentrate about it. The guy who did the image in water. That's Flake. Japanese. Yeah, right. So he would do the same thing. He would take an image of a copper and put it on the water, and you can see that the flake changed. It actually produced the copper. Since we're 70% water, anything that any vibration,
we're 90+% water, Andy.
90. I thought it was 70. Every time I said 90, somebody else was telling me 71, 72. I don't know where it is, but it's up there.
Yeah, we're a lot of water, but Andy, we're pretty much at the end of the show.
No, I don't want to go.
Well, my dog's been outside for an hour barking.
Oh, poor
so
guy.
I have to go get my dog right
Yeah,
away.
yeah. Bring him in. Bring him in. Okay, guys,
Yeah.
we're gonna start a whole new process next week. We're gonna work up a whole new bunch of stuff. If you guys have anything you want me to talk about, email it to me. Remember, I'm giving away my "Don't Panic, It's Organic" ebook, my "How Alternatives to Chemicals for Home and Garden" ebook. I'm giving away the bricks ebook. My friend who produces it give it away, so I'm giving that one. I also have my remineralization of the earth friend. I forget his name now. Sorry, I'm giving away his ebook as well. So there's 4 ebooks you can get. All you have to do is, ideally, I would like you to sign up for the newsletter, subscribe to my podcast, prove it that you're part of the team, and I'm happy to send you all these ebooks for you to read. That will help you a lot. But if you have any questions, anything you want to know, I'm always here to talk to you guys. Okay, thank you.
Help us pick topics, guys. Anyway, the girls are on. Hopefully tomorrow the ladies are back in. Chiropractic is sexy. We'll see what they're talking about, but they're supposed to be back tomorrow. So, guys, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Other than that, we'll see you soon.